Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a huge tension right at the heart of modern education, this big push for more access versus the desire for better learning. It's a balancing act happening all over the world, and it really comes down to how many people are in the classroom.
I mean, if you've ever sat in a giant lecture hall and felt completely and totally invisible, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But here's the thing, that feeling isn't just personal. It's actually the result of a massive, intentional shift in global education. Let's start right there.
So to really understand why classrooms are getting so packed, we have to zoom way out. This isn't some accident. It's the result of a worldwide goal that's been in the works for decades. The key term you'll hear is massification. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's a simple idea. As our economies depend more and more on knowledge, more people need to get into higher education. It's what's turned universities from these kind of elite places into institutions for pretty much everyone.
And look, this is a good thing. The thinking behind it is that a nation's real wealth is its knowledge. So opening up education is seen as one of the most powerful ways to move society and the economy forward. But, as you can imagine, this super fast growth comes with some serious growing pains.
So what does this big global trend actually feel like for the person sitting at the desk trying to learn? Let's zoom right back in and look at the actual student experience.
Just listen to this quote from a university student in South Africa. It really shows how a massive class, even basic classroom etiquette, can just fall apart. Researchers have a name for this. They call it classroom incivility. And it's not just annoying, it actively gets in the way of learning.
And it's not just about noise, it gets physical. This quote paints a really intense picture of the reality on the ground. When a room is that overcrowded, it can get so uncomfortable that just concentrating feels almost impossible. It's tough to focus on big ideas when you can barely breathe. So you've got the physical side, but then there's this deep psychological isolation too. Students just feel anonymous, like a number. Raising your hand to ask a question can feel super intimidating, and trying to connect with your professor, that becomes a huge challenge.
All right, now let's flip the script. If it's this tough for students, just imagine what it's like for the instructors. For them, it can feel like they're being asked to do something flat out impossible.
And this isn't just a feeling. The data shows how big this problem really is. A study out of Ghana found that nearly half, 44.5% of all classroom management problems come directly from the sheer number of students. It's not about the teacher's skill, it's that managing a crowd is a totally different ballgame than teaching a class.
And just think about the math behind the workload. For a single instructor with 150 students, just grading one written assignment can take over 2,200 minutes. That's where this number comes from, a full 40-hour work week. For one assignment, that's just wild.
So what's the fallout from that kind of pressure? Well, when you're buried under a workload like that, you just don't have time for interactive lessons or detailed personal feedback. You're forced to fall back on lectures and multiple choice tests, not because they're best for learning, but because they're the only way to survive.
Okay, so we've heard these really powerful personal stories from students and teachers. And guess what? The hard data from all over the continent backs them up big time. Let's look at the numbers.
Take a look at this table from South Africa. It really lays the reality bare. The national target is a 20-to-1 student-to-staff ratio. Some places, like UCT, are doing great. But then you get to the University of South Africa, and that ratio just explodes to an unbelievable 78 students for every single staff member. 78 to 1. And if you ask the teachers who are on the front lines every day, well, they have zero doubt about the impact. In a survey from Kenya, the consensus is just overwhelming. 87% of teachers agree the number of kids in my class directly affects how well they do.
And research from Nigeria makes the connection even more direct. A study there found that students in smaller classes don't just feel better, they achieve more. We're talking statistically higher academic outcomes and fewer behavioral issues compared to their friends in the bigger classes. Okay, so the evidence is pretty clear. While this whole massification thing has opened up a lot of doors, it's also created huge challenges to the quality of learning inside those doors. The big question is, what can we do about it?
Well, there's no single magic bullet here. It's really got to be a mix of strategies. In the short term, teachers can use technology like online forums or encourage student-led study groups to create smaller communities inside a big class. But for real systemic change, institutions have to invest in more tutors and teaching assistants. That helps reduce the instructor's burden and give students more support. And at the end of the day, the most foundational solution is also the most expensive one. You just have to build more classrooms.
And that really brings us to our final thought for today. Expanding access to education is a monumental achievement. No question about it. But maybe the next great challenge for education around the world isn't about opening the door even wider, but about making sure that once students walk through it, they find a space, a real seat, that truly allows them to learn.